All right, so for this card, we're using the Waterfront stamp set. That's the set. It's been really, really super popular on Pinterest. Seeing all kinds of designs and ideas with it. I've done these three. These two are done on vanilla, and this one on white. On this one, I actually hand drew a tiny little bird. And the truth of it is there was a tiny little spot of blue there. And I didn't really want that tiny spot of blue there. So I drew on with a marker my little tiny bird. And I think it turned out great. So you can also, use a sentiment or not use a sentiment. So I do have to tell a quick little story on this. I created these three designs and I was so proud and excited. And then for some reason I could not find this white design. And I was sitting here this morning with Dean, and I wanted to show her another project that I made. And I found that it was hidden on the other side of my other card. I had thought it was a card base, and I decided that I would just put that new thing that I had stamped on the back side. Anyway, just thought I would let you laugh at me a little bit while I laugh at me a little bit. Anyway, so this is the other card that I made with it, which I just love, and it's done, obviously to look like a beach scene. I did a little bit of masking and then some sponging in the sky, but there's my other alternative, along with my funny story. I'm going to start with the mountains. So I'm just going to start with my white piece, and every one of these is going to turn out a little bit different. And there is some first inking and second inking, a little bit of using of water on some of the steps, so I'll walk you through all that as we go. So I'm going to start with my trees, my mountains, which are a little bit higher than halfway is where I start. So I'm just going to start with that first one, and I'm going to grab a piece of paper towel because I get a little bit of ink on the edge, and that's how we end up with ink in places where we don't want it. So I'm going to have that handy to wipe off. Again. So I'm doing this several times. So now I'm going to speed through stamping the rest of the mountains using first and second inking and just trying to create my landscape in general. Making sure there are no white spots remaining, so you can see there I stamped off and then filled in where it was white, and now I'm doing my stamped off mountains in the background. Okay, so next I'm going to come in with my wild wasabi, and I'm doing the grass in the wild wasabi and the trees in a different green, a darker green. Did that because I liked the contrast, and actually on one of these samples I did it differently. So this one I did wild wasabi on the ground or grass, and I did the garden green on the trees, so you get more of a difference. On this one it was the same color, it was both wild wasabi, so just I liked the contrast a little bit better. So here I just stamped 3 of those grass images, tucking them into the mountains and turning my stamp around in different directions just to give some variation to the grass image. And then the next thing I like to do is the water, and we're using 3 images for the water. And I'm using Marina Mist. And the image that I start with is this bigger one. And I did a little bit of stamping off and spraying. And what I found was that it sort of gave me the depth of color that I was looking for, and the contrast. So what I did with this image, this first big water image first, is I stamped it off, and then I sprayed it with a little bit of water. If I stamped it again without spraying it, it ended up being kind of pale and not so filled in. So I just, holding my spritzer about a foot away, I just did it off camera, but I sprayed on the top of the stamp. And then I'm just going to come in and I'm tucking this little piece into the spot that's open between the grass and the mountains. Okay, so next I'm going to take my second water image, and I'm going to do this one full ink, And I'm going to also spray it. And you can experiment with, you know, the depths of color that you get, but this was what I had the most success with. So and then I'm going to take that little element of the water and tuck it in between those two bits of grass or ground. And it, you know, it just looks darker, so you can really see the difference, and it gives you some depth in the water. So now I want this to also be water in here. So I'm going to take this image again, and I'm going to stamp it off. Now I could mask, and if I go over the green, I'm going to end up getting some blue over the green. So I'm going to actually stamp it on the edge to get off some of that extra ink. Let's see if this works. Done this before. And then I'm not pressing down the bottom half, just pressing the top half so I fill it in. And it worked. Woohoo! Isn't that fun? When it actually works. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. Stamp it off. You can see that's a little bit lighter than that is, and it's because I didn't spray it. So it's stamped off ink, but it's not sprayed. So I'm just going to get that one in there, and whatever blue was over that didn't show up, so I'm happy with that. Okay, so there's my water. So all done with that part of the Marina Mist. And then there's one other image, which is this set of specks. And I like to do full inking of the specks over the top of the water and then stamp off to kind of fill in the rest, second, third, fourth inking even. Just to kind of carry the color down a little bit. The original one I saw didn't do that, but that's kind of how I liked it. So that's pretty much it for the Marina Mist. And then I'm going to do my sun, and I did the sun in the Daffodil Delight. Again, I found that when I stamped it straight on, it wasn't quite as rich or as dark as I wanted. So I also used the spritzer, and I'm doing it off camera again so I don't get my work surface wet, about a foot away, and just let a little bit of the mist fall onto the stamp itself, and it gives me a little bit more depth of color of that daffodil for the sun. So coming in with the trees, and I sort of wanted 6 trees showing. Now because I did this, the ground a little bit differently, I have to do the trees a little bit differently, and that's okay. I don't think I inked up the bottom of those trees very well because I'm not seeing them. Okay. So now do I live dangerously and go over the top of that to get my trunks? I missed my trunks. Should I live dangerously? I think I'll live dangerously.
You can do it.
Okay, you might have to see the top of my head here. See the top of my head? Here, maybe I'll pull this away from me. Okay. Let's see. So I'm actually just going to try to touch the trunks only. Ah, pretty darn good. All right. We got some fat trunks there, but it works. Okay, and then of course I can do my sentiment on the bottom or not. I sort of like it without the sentiment just because it makes the card more versatile. And then all I have to do is my final assembly. So by the magic of TV, my sample is already attached to a piece of black. I have dimensionals on the back side. And then I'm just going to attach it to my card base, making sure that there's no other card on the back side, other focal piece. And then I'm going to put an inside piece, you know, on the inside. And there we are, all done. I hope you like it.
Very nice.